Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of our high level spotlight sessions. This is our podcast where we bring in top players in our community and even outside of our community and share their stories of some of the cool things that they're working on. I have Ruheene here, and Ruheen's background is pretty interesting. I've met her in person a couple of times with our events, masterminds, conferences, and she's someone who's very active in our community. And we asked her to jump in on a podcast. And just to give you a few notes about her background, she focuses on SaaS sales enablement for B2B products with experience in consumer tech launches for companies like Apple, Amazon, where she specialized in B2B SaaS development for third-party tools on things like ManyChat, as well as high level and even unprompted Gen AI for SaaS product marketers. What she focuses on is dialing in your brand story, product narrative, and messaging strategy around your whole business to help you find the right prospect. So, without any further ado, thanks for jumping in. Help us understand your story in our community.
Hey, Paulson, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk about this because positioning, messaging, how it feeds into SaaS sales is my jam, and I love talking about it. I could talk about it all day. But let's just jump into like positioning, right? Because I know that product positioning and product marketing are things that I feel like SaaSpreneurs kind of get thrown into because now they're selling SaaS and not digital marketing agency service alone anymore. And that's a whole shift in understanding how you position your everything from your brand to your offers.
It's funny
So
that you said that because the times have changed in how a marketing service provider is now functioning with high level in mind. I mean, SaaS is just a natural part of their offers. For those of you that are watching this episode, I'll just make it a lot easier for you. Today's topic between Ruheen and I is going to be around how to use AI to differentiate yourself in the market. We're going to have 3 to 4 different topics, discussions around that. One is what is product marketing, what is not. Number two is, the whole buzz around conversational AI versus strategy building AI that's internally in the systems. And number three is how to apply the right positioning to the messaging. And we'll even talk about promptless AI towards the end of our conversation. So, Raheen, what is product marketing and what isn't?
product marketing is when you are selling a product focused offer. So whether it's service as software as a service, or any kind of product that is now built into your offers, it takes a whole mind shift, right? Where you're now not just selling a service, you're not just selling your personal brand or personal positioning, you're now positioning every product or service that you offer in a way that's going to resonate with your target audience. And this is so much more than what I see so many of us doing, right? We're coming into this, trying to understand our customer avatars by creating these little cards of them going, this is their demographic, these are their pain points. These pain points are what my offer relates to. This is how I help people by solving these pain points. But let's face it, we're all so much more than walking cards with demographics and pain points, right? We have these lives, we have these emotional internal needs. And as humans, let's face it, we also really care about how people perceive us, right? Whether that's personally, socially, professionally, how do we want people to perceive us, and how our buying decisions feed into every one of those needs. And really understanding your buyer personas, your customer avatars, whichever term you want to use, on that level just changes the entire game. Then you're not just talking pain points like everybody else is. Now you really, really understand how you're helping this person fulfill their needs on so many different levels. So yeah, that's a little bit about product marketing versus digital marketing, which is more, focused on lead generation and conversions from leads to sales. But it's really about understanding how you're positioning and your messaging, 2 different things, by the way, which we'll also talk about if we have time, but how that feeds into your SaaS offering now with the perspective of a product marketer versus a digital marketer.
Yeah. So, first of all, let's just address the folks that probably have never seen high level before, and this might be the first episode ever hearing any content from high level. So, can you help everyone understand what is SaaS, what is SaaSpreneurship, how is it relevant today in 2024 for a digital marketing agency of some kind or a freelancer?
Well, first of all, this is your first time hearing about GHL. Can I just say I am honored to be talking about it, to be the first one telling you about it, because it's such a great product, such a great opportunity. And if you haven't checked it out yet, please, you need to jump all in. GHL, or high level, is a replacement for every tool that a marketing agency and small business owners need in order to sell their services, products, offers, whatever it may be. It's really everything that you need. Traditionally, business owners were spending up to like $12,000, and I think even more. I shouldn't say up to, it's like $12,000 plus on just their marketing software, right? And now GHL has come in and given us this super accessible, super easy to use and understand software that just combines all of the best software out there. It combines it into this all-in-one marketing CRM, which is so easy for small business owners to use. You don't need any special sort of, well, you have certifications and trainings depending on how far you want to take it. But to get started with the software, you don't really need, Salesforce level training, to be like the marketing ninja for your customers. And at the end of the day, marketing and sales is what every small business owner needs to meet their revenue goals at the end of the day. And if you can provide that need using simple to understand software that doesn't cost you an arm and a leg, that's the opportunity that High Level gives us today.
I love that. And let's go back to the discussion points that you had initially started with, which is product marketing versus digital marketing. And I know when we shared those ideas, we're thinking about how to think like a software company versus a standard agency, right? And I know you've been in a lot of our masterminds, our conferences, you've rubbed shoulders with some of the biggest players in our community. Help us understand, what do you mean by product marketing versus what it's not? Can we go into a little bit more depth about how to think about it the right way?
Yeah. So product marketing is what bridges your marketing and your sales teams, right? So we're all familiar with what digital marketing is, right? You're focused on lead generation. You're focused on how you're going to nurture and convert those leads to a sale, how you're going to invite those leads to whatever your business offers. Most of us offer appointment bookings, right? We want to get on a call. Whether it's with us or a sales team, we are trying to invite our leads. We're trying to pre-qualify them, warm them up, and then invite them to a call so we can close them on the call, right? But very often there's a disconnect between your marketing strategy and your sales strategy. And that actually ties in with some of the struggles that larger tech companies have as well, right? They have a marketing team who have amazing marketers who've never been salespeople. And then you have a sales team who've never done marketing. And so when a customer, their journey goes from the marketing content that they're seeing or they're engaging with, and now they're on a sales call, and the salesperson is positioning your product or service as something completely different from what they thought they were getting into. Now you have a disconnect. Now you have much bigger sales objections that are way harder to address on that one call. And now you have the need to nurture them further, and possibly you're going to lose the sale, right? And that's where the disconnect comes in. Product marketing is now it's becoming more of a thing in larger organizations. Smaller startups are starting to catch up, but it's this function that sits in between your marketing, your sales, your customer support, and your product team. And as SaaSpreneurs, we are the product team, right? Most of us don't have a product marketing team. High Level is your product team. We are the product marketing team.
I love that. And I bet you probably get annoyed when you hear all these folks talking about AI this, AI that, high level this, high level that. And then the burden is on you as entrepreneurs to really focus on product marketing. So, can you, first of all, just share your outlook on overused AI terminology and marketing everywhere? Help us understand what you feel about it. And I hear this often from a ton of people. Paulson, everything inside high level is not AI. We get it, but like, help us unpack that for me.
AI is so many different things, exactly what you just said, right? AI is so many different things, and it's so many different things to so many different people. But at the end of the day, AI is conversational AI is just one piece of AI, right? Conversational AI is where you train a chatbot using AI on how to answer questions, so frequently asked questions, things like that. You address those questions, you help pre-qualify those leads to make sure that they're a good fit for your business, and then eventually invite them to take that next step. For example, book an appointment with you, right? That's one piece of AI. The other piece that we're all familiar with is more around content AI, right? Where you are producing content for all of your different marketing material and some of your sales material. But I've seen it used more specifically for marketing content. There's also generative AI. When used correctly, you can also use it to rebuild your entire strategy, right? So understanding your custom avatars, you can do that on a really, really deep granular level with Gen AI. You can also use it to understand how your product fits into their needs, right? Again, we talked about those needs not just being pain points, but these deeper emotional needs. So how your product and your brand, even as a whole, fits into that. AI can help you do that. It can help you flesh out everything from your unique value proposition. Who cares about your unique value proposition? Why do they care about your unique value proposition? And how you can not just convert them today, but keep them as a sticky client for a long time to come, right? We're thinking long term, and Gen AI can help you do all of these different things. I think where we get lost in the noise is that we aren't able to easily distinguish between the different kinds of AI and what our business needs. Where do we get started? And so the way I like to think about it is, if you need a strategy, if your current positioning and messaging strategy isn't working, then AI is a great place to start, where you can help kind of build all of that out, what your messaging should look like, what your unique value propositions are, how they convert into taglines for your website, to elevator pitches for when you're talking about your product and services in person. It really ties into every part of that strategy. So that's where I would start. Even though that sounds like the bigger piece, that's the part that's actually going to make all your other pieces work or not work, resonate or not resonate with your audience, right? Once you have that, then you can have conversational AI, or in parallel, start to nurture your leads, book them, get them to book an appointment. But now, once you have your positioning and messaging straightened out on the back end, you're more likely to close those leads on your sales call once they show up.
So how does someone know if the AI strategies that they have used is working or not working? Because, sometimes you'll see the different types of avatars that are coming in. It's like this like big plethora of different types of interactions and customers. Some people have the wrong price points, some people have the wrong messaging. But before we talk about positioning to the right messaging, help us understand how to even identify that something is wrong in AI, in the usage and strategy.
I think if you are using AI for the sake of using AI because you want your customers to feel like you're riding that wave, I don't think you're using it the way it should be used. At the end of the day, we're all doing, we're running a business, and we want to be bringing in the right kind of customers. We want to be meeting our revenue goals, and we want to be supporting not just our business, but the people who work for us and our families and whatever's important to us outside of our business, right? So if that whole thing, if that entire puzzle is not working together, that's when you know that you could be using AI for either something different or using it better than you currently are.
I love that. So give us some examples of how we can differentiate ourselves using AI. Maybe address to the folks that are dealing with B2B, like digital citizens in the world of marketing, or maybe address the folks that are going out to the local market, the mom and pop shops. Maybe give us like two or three examples of like different ways to differentiate ourselves. I'm trying to just think of, I mean, it's such a big question, but I'm just like thinking of scenario-based examples. Like, let's say we're working with the dentist. What are things that you can provide the dentist using AI that an average agency can't?
Well, what you can provide it, okay, so here, let me take a step back and really go back to understanding your customer avatar, right? And I'm happy to give examples from, like, again, larger tech enterprises like Apple and Amazon and how they launch their products versus how you can take that to any mom and pop shop, whether it's a dentist, whether it's a florist shop. We had a demo recently where we kind of dissected the whole persona of a florist shop. And really, it's the same thing. We are going into these things, not just understanding their pain points, And actually, let me say this as well, because I know in marketing, when we get started with marketing and when we get started with SaaS and we're serving B2B customers, we're always told to focus on one or all three of these pain points, right? We are trying to make our customers money, we're trying to save our customers money, and we're trying to save our customers time. We've all heard that, right?
Yep.
But so is the next person, so is your competitor. They're all targeting the same thing. So how do you differentiate yourself then? That's not a differentiating factor anymore, right? And so it's really understanding what's important to them. So if it's a dentist office, how long have they been around, right? Do they have, are they just trying to get their first few customers? Are they trying to make sure that their current customers keep coming back to them? Or have they been in business long enough where they have a big team and they have all these customers, but they know that they're not doing everything they could be through their marketing strategies in order to retain those customers and make those customers the best advocates for their business that they could make them, right? It's really understanding where they're at in that customer journey. And that's how you position your offerings. You go from there. Now, to understand that, traditionally, you needed a whole research team. You need a customer research team. You need a product marketing team. There are all these different functions in larger companies that do all of this. But the magic of AI is that if you can understand how to use AI, Gen AI, with simple strategies, you can actually have AI do a lot of that for you. And then you can continue to test and refine what the AI is giving you through your customer interactions. I don't know if that helps, but I'm happy
Yeah,
to go into.
absolutely. Absolutely. Maybe talk about how you guys set things up for that floral shop, right? Like how did you replace the research and development team in reality of a corporate structure with maybe Gen AI? Like what was that like?
So that actually ties in with understanding what positioning is. So if it's okay with you, I'd like
Yeah.
to step
Yeah.
back and talk about what positioning is, how it's different from your unique value proposition, how big tech companies like Apple and Amazon are using this in their businesses, what's worked for them, what's made them millions and billions versus what's cost them millions, and how we can use those strategies when we're talking to these dentist shops, these floral shops. Does that
Yeah,
sound?
absolutely. Yeah. The third point that we were going to talk about was how to apply positioning to the messaging in general. So let's dive right in.
Okay, so I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I know we were talking a little bit offline as well. But I was, for better or worse, I was part of the iPhone 5 launch, if anyone can remember that, 12 whole years ago in 2012. I know it was a long time ago. But what's fascinating to me about that is that it was one of Apple's best launches ever. And to me, the reason why, now there are lots of reasons why that happened, but the key reason comes down to their positioning and messaging. And Apple did one of the best jobs they've ever done. We all know that Apple is like the best at positioning themselves, right? But what they did with that iPhone 5 launch is just really, really interesting to dive into. And then to contrast that with the Amazon Fire phone that came out 2 years later in 2014, which if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's not on you. There's a reason that thing failed. It was probably one of Amazon's biggest flop shows, and there's a reason for that too, right? And if you put those two things together, it's really interesting to understand what worked and what didn't work in those two cases. And put really simply,
Well, first of all, how did you get involved with those companies? Were you in corporate marketing before? Like, help us understand the background notes on that, so that way everyone is on the same page.
so I have a weird background, but particularly this case and how I was working with them, I was actually working for a visual effects post-production company in San Francisco. And we were working on some large scale, big Marvel projects. So we worked on like the Avengers and a lot of the Marvel movies that were coming out at the time.
Wow. Yep.
And so, yeah, lots of stories there too. But the thing with big film projects is that they are really intense for 3 or 4 months, and then they have like a month or two of downtime before the next project starts. And
Hmm.
anyone who knows me knows that I can't sit still. It's just, I don't have it. So, so in between projects, I would actually get loaned out to another company that was working on these advertising campaigns for launches like the iPhone 5, the Amazon Fire phone. If anyone remembers the Motorola Deck, that's another one that where we had Michael Phelps in our campaign, and that was another fun one that we worked on. But that's how I used to do these kind of
Got it.
as a filler for my day job, if you want to call it that.
And this is before you became a SaaSpreneur, long before?
Well
Okay.
before, yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So yeah,
So back to positioning to the messaging.
so with positioning, one key thing to understand about positioning is what positioning is not, right? So positioning is not your unique attributes. It's not your unique value proposition. It's not your messaging that you're feeding into your content. Your positioning is what you are selling yourself as, selling your products as to your customer. There's a great story that I'm not going to go into because it's going to be another a story feeds really well into this. But if anyone's heard the story of McDonald's wanting to increase their milkshake sales, it's a big story out there. I don't know if you've come across it, but the short version of that story is that they were trying to increase their milkshake sales. So they tried to do all of these different things with their flavors and really market the flavors that they were coming out with, and nothing worked. They weren't being able to increase those sales. So they started noticing a lot of people were buying those shakes first thing in the morning. And so they went and talked to these guys in their car, in the drive-through, asking them what they were there for. Why were they buying this milkshake? And after a few questions and like talking to all these people, there was a pattern that emerged, right? They were not buying the milkshakes from milkshakes. It was their substitute for breakfast. They were on their way to work. They needed a breakfast supplement or substitute, something that was easy for them to consume on their drive into work. And that's why they were buying the milkshakes. It had nothing to do with the flavors or how sweet it was or how delicious it was at all. Once they understood that, that's when they were able to position their milkshakes as a breakfast substitute for busy working professionals. So all that to say that when you're thinking about your positioning, you want to understand not just what you're selling or how you're helping your customer address their pain points, right? You want to first step one, when you're trying to identify your positioning, it's a 5-step process. Let's just go through the process and see where Apple landed on that scale and where Amazon failed on that scale, right? So the first thing you want to do is understand your competitor landscape. Now, that includes your competitors in the industry, yes, but it also includes your competitive alternatives. What do I mean by that, right? That is, what is your current customers or your prospect? What are they doing to address this goal or issue or problem instead of using your product, right? They may be using a competitor's product, but a lot of them are simply DIYing it, right? Maybe they're watching YouTube videos. So those YouTube videos are your competitive alternatives. Maybe they're not doing anything about it. They're just suffering in silence. That is also your competitive alternative. You need to understand how your product compares with those competitive alternatives, right? Once you have a clear understanding of that, that goes into your unique attributes. Now you know what's unique about your product or service versus what else is out there and what your customers are currently doing. A lot of people will stop there and say, that's my positioning. That's my unique value proposition. That's still not your unique value proposition. That is your unique attribute, right? Now you want to turn that into your differentiating value. What value does that differentiating attribute or set of attributes give your customer, right? Now you have a unique value proposition, which is still not your positioning. Now you have a unique value proposition that you can use in your elevator pitch of them when you're talking about your product. Your positioning then is, once you have your unique value proposition, you want to identify who cares about that value. And this is the step that a lot of people miss, and they are surprised to find that the target market that they had in mind isn't actually the best fit for what they have to offer. When you ask yourself, this is my unique value proposition, okay, who cares about this? The answers can be pretty crazy, like they can be pretty eye-opening, right? Once you've identified who cares about it, and that can be a totally different market segment, or it can be a segment within your current target audience, but it's really identifying that. Then you want to ask yourself, why do they care about it? You know who, why do they care about it, right? That's what's going to not help them not just convert, but also stay with you for a long time to come. If you can understand the what, the who, and the why, right?
So, Rooney, if you're open to it, can you share? I hear what you're saying from a concept standpoint and a principle standpoint and strategy, and I'm following along. Can you share some examples of like how this applies to you as a SaaSpreneur. I mean, we at High Level, I mean, there's thousands and thousands of each other, right? Like
Yeah.
there's another brand that's similar to me. That's one of the common things that we hear at High Level. So can you give us some examples of how to look at our own brand or our own product as SaaSpreneurs when it comes to this and kind of apply some of the principles you're teaching here?
Yeah, and I think the Apple and Amazon stories will make that clear. But just to jump into answering that specific piece, when you're a GHL agency and if you're getting on calls demoing your agency and your offer, and you're worried about the other person saying, "Oh, I've seen this before. I know this is high level, and I know I can get it for much cheaper from the other guy," and you're not sure what to say to that, or you're worried about that at all, that just means that you don't understand your positioning, and that's where all of this comes in, right? If you are serving your customers' emotional needs in a deeper way than just what the software brings, that's what your differentiating factor is. That's what you can use to feed into who cares and why they care. That's what you can use to increase your sales, address your sales objections, and really differentiate yourself from any other high-level agency. And it is a mix. I see a lot of conversations in the Facebook community about, what do you do when somebody knows that this is GHL? Like, how do you tell them that it's still worth spending the extra $500 or $600 that I'm charging versus somebody else who's charging $100, right? How do you convince them that this is still going to be something that they need, something worth purchasing? And that comes down to, what are you offering outside of the platform? And I know a lot of this has been said. This is nothing new. A lot of people have said this. A lot of experienced folks in the GHL community have said, understand what makes you different. But then I see a lot of, especially newcomers, they are like, okay, well, what differentiates me is this cool snapshot that I have, right?
Yep.
And that could feed into it. But what is your snapshot doing for your customer, right? What is it doing that other snapshots and agencies aren't doing? Again, that is your unique attribute. What
I love
value is
that.
that attribute giving? You see how it's all tying in now? What
I
value
love
is
that.
that
Yep.
attribute giving to your customer? Is that customer really the one who truly cares about that value? And is it important enough for them to stick with you for a long time? Let me quickly jump into the Apple and Amazon things, because I know that I've been mentioning them, and if they're like this, like, what does that have to do with us at SaaSpreneurs? But here's the thing. So when the iPhone 5 came out, I don't know how many of you remember that phone, but the only differentiating factor that it had from its previous phones, the 4 and the 4S, was that it was a lighter phone. I don't know if you know this. That's all it had. It had nothing else that was like groundbreaking or super amazing or something that Samsung or one of the other companies didn't have. They were literally lighter than the 4S, slightly thinner and lighter. That's it. Now, what would have happened if they had just gone and marketed that? It's the lightest iPhone we have. Who's going to care about that? Right? So they identified, they took it through the whole process. So now they have the unique attribute. What is the value, right? The value really comes down to, people don't care if it's like 2 ounces lighter. I don't care if my phone's 2 ounces lighter. I bought the 4S and the 5, and I could tell you that I had to remind myself that it's lighter, right? But the people who care, when you ask yourself, who cares about this? It is the community of people that are already using Apple products. They care about staying ahead of the curve. They care about having the latest tech from a company like Apple, and that helps them come across as sophisticated technology users to their peers,
Mm.
right?
Yeah,
And so guess how?
it's almost like when I ask my friends that have a Tesla why they bought a Tesla versus like Prius, which is like even more efficient electronically, like electrically, like it's a better car. It's been around for a long time. It's the it's the it's the positioning. It's like the brand of who they are when they have a Tesla, right?
Yeah,
It's what
people can be
adds
caught
to
dead in
the
a Prius. I'll tell you that.
But keep going, keep going. I don't want to derail you here, but I'm loving what you're sharing because this is a big, I think, a factor that high levelers and SaaSpreneurs have to figure out how to differentiate themselves using AI, and high level is part of that piece.
Exactly. Yeah. And so high level is your car engine, right? Like in your example, high level is your car engine. How you differentiate yourself, whether you're a Tesla or a Prius, is your positioning, is your messaging, is your unique value proposition, and how you're selling that, right? So now in contrast though, okay, So the iPhone 5, we got as far as the who cares and why they care, right? But guess how they positioned the iPhone 5 during that launch? It's the best thing to happen to iPhone since the iPhone.
So it's focused on existing customers.
Focus on existing customers. That's exactly right. And had they not identified that, we would have had people going, okay, so what do I do? Because it's like an ounce light or 2 ounces light or whatever it was. It was a specific number, right? But
Mm.
when you position it as it's the best thing to have happened to the iPhone since the iPhone, now people who want that emotional need of being ahead of the curve, having the latest technology, and aligning themselves with a brand like Apple, now they want it. Now it's a need to have versus a must have. And that's another thing that your positioning needs to do. Your positioning needs to make it immediately clear what it is, who it's for, who it's not for. And anybody who's looking at it needs to know immediately whether it's for them or not. And that's what Apple did with the iPhone, right? In contrast, the Fire Phone, again, if you don't know what that is, you never heard of it, it's not on you. It's basically Amazon's attempt at releasing a phone and getting into the mobile market, right? So their phone was actually innovative. They actually had features where it's kind of like Google Lens, I think, right? Where they had this feature where you could position your camera or whatever on this on a billboard or on an object, and it would help you figure out where you can find that on Amazon. So it's innovative. It was a piece of tech that had never been created before. Great, it's cool. But they stopped there. That's our differentiating attribute. That's our value, is that you can shop easier on Amazon. Again, like I'm not sure who that was a pain point for. Like we're already spending way too much on Amazon. I don't think anyone was walking around going, how can I spend more money on Amazon? So, right. So that's where it started to fail. But where it really came down is they stopped there. And that's what a lot of high levelers do too, right? Like we stop at our unique value attributes and the proposition a little bit when we get there, but we're not asking ourselves who cares and why do they care? Had
Yeah,
Amazon
let's
stopped,
pause. Let's pause for a second. So, what you're saying is a very common trap I see a lot of high levelers and SaaSpreneurs do, which is they know how to create a superior product from the currency of features, right? If we just look at features versus features, you could definitely build a more innovative product like Amazon did, but doesn't mean that's going to resonate with your market,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
This is one of the biggest mistakes I see people make.
Yeah,
They think because they have a 2 year, automation with, a 10-man round robin calendar sales system with pipelines that are great for 10 products, they think that's gonna resonate with the customers more, and typically it doesn't. Typically it doesn't because you're going after either net new customers or existing customers. Existing customers often want a simpler product. They don't
exactly.
need a heavier product, right? They want something that works faster, more efficient. Tell us more. Tell us more. I don't wanna sidetrack you, but this is what I'm thinking about when you say Amazon had a more innovative product.
Yep. Yep. And they just didn't follow through on their positioning piece, right? Like asking themselves who cares and why they care. And then you said it beautifully. That's exactly the whole point of sharing these stories with you, is because I see a lot of high levelers struggling to understand what they need to offer. GHL is like this, you feel like you're Alice in Wonderland, right? You've got so much that you don't know.
Legos, Legoland with so many
Legoland, there you
Legos.
go. Like, which block can I actually break off from this and provide value with? Whether I upsell them into the rest of this magical wonderland or not, it doesn't matter. What are you changing for them in their lives based on their external needs, their internal needs, their philosophical needs, all of this? Like, if you understand their inner dialogue, their decision-making process, it becomes a lot easier to understand then everything from which Lego piece you need to take, what you need to do with it, how you add your special sauce to it. It also helps you identify what your special sauce is, because I know a lot of us have all these unique experiences, but we don't know how to tie it into what we're selling. Understanding your basic positioning framework, the way I was just going over it, that's how bigger tech companies are using it. And really applying that framework to your SaaS offerings will help you answer all of these questions. Which part do I take out? What can I do with this, with my experience, my special sauce, to make this different from anything else out there? What value is that differentiating factor going to provide to my customers? Who is going to care about that differentiated value, and why? Why would they care about this enough to not just spend their time and money on it, but stay with this for a long time?
I love that because what you just unpacked is I mean, I feel like that's 5 years of journey that we went through here at high level. It's we started off being like the all-in-one for everybody, and then we realized it's need to be geared towards the agencies and the marketers. Then now we're in a world of digital citizens, is how I call them, right? Digital citizens that are doing marketing activities, sometimes similar to a marketing agency, sometimes like similar to like a sales organization. But what we're seeing is your positioning sometimes changes over time, right? Like I don't think my wife would be happy if I went to McDonald's and got a McFlurry for breakfast. But but if I had some protein powder with me, I might just go get a vanilla shake and throw some protein powder in there if I wanted to go to the gym in the morning. Like we all have some alternative motives on every single thing, right? So I love everything you're saying. Now, the fourth thing that I know we wanted to talk about was a promptless AI, using AI to replace your need for product marketing team and sell more. What can we do to be more resourceful around AI?
So AI is something that I don't think you need to be a prompt engineer to use. So that's the first thing I want to say, because I see a lot of people going, if I need to jump on this AI hype or bandwagon or whatever we're calling it, that I need to understand how to be a prompt engineer. So your skill set may not have anything to do with marketing or sales or AI. And I think it's one of the worst ideas I've seen out there is you drop what you're actually good at. Instead of doubling down on that, you now try and become a marketer or salesperson and now a prompt engineer. That's what I see a lot of people doing. And good for us, there are now tools. We have a tool exactly like this, but there are now tools that do all of the prompting for you. So, we have like all of the prompts and the frameworks and triggers and sales triggers and all of that built into the back end. So what you would do is if you want to jump on AI and you're like, I don't, I love prompting, I want to be doing it, but I spend too much time on it, or I don't understand prompting and it's just such a big roadblock for me because I'm not tech savvy and I don't know how to get into it. And I hear everybody talking about it, but it's just prompting is beyond me. Either way, that can't be an excuse that holds you back anymore, right? With Promptless AI tools, you can now plug in what you know about your product and your market and have the AI dial in everything from your customer avatars on all the different levels that we just talked about, how that feeds into your positioning, how that feeds into the who cares market segment, right? Why they care, what your elevator pitches could be, how that ties into your overall brand story, how that feeds into everything from your sales calls to your marketing messaging to everything.
I
So
love that. So, like, can you give us an example of how, if I'm an agency owner or a marketer who's not good at prompting, like, give us some examples of some tools. And I think you said you have one, or like help us. Is that Levi, or is
hey,
that
Levi,
some?
yeah.
Okay. Help us understand what that is. Give us like a background of like how did that came about and how does that apply to maybe Promptless AI?
Hey Levi actually came about because of the conversations that were going on in the GHL community around how do I position myself? How do I differentiate myself in this growing world of GHL? I just got off this call where I was demoing the platform to someone and they said they've seen this platform before and they know where to get it for cheaper. How do I handle these things, right? And it was just such a clear positioning strategy miss that it was the same time, it was around September 2022. It just so happened to coincide with those conversations that were popping up in my feed. Maybe they'd been going on for longer. But that's, also it coincides with when GHL was really starting to grow and people were getting like really excited about it. And you guys had so many people coming to you, right? Coming to the community. It coincided with OpenAI releasing their open API that you could plug into now. You don't need something like Jasper. You can just plug right into OpenAI and be your own Jasper. And so that's how it started. It actually started as a positioning tool that would help everybody from marketing agencies, GHL SaaSpreneurs to their end customers understand how to position themselves and differentiate themselves in a saturated market, no matter what that market is, right? Right now, the market
Interesting.
is GHL, but yeah, in any sort of saturated market.
And is it relevant for local businesses as well, or is it more for B2B like digital citizens, like I mentioned earlier?
It's for anybody whose messaging isn't resonating with their target audience.
Got it. That's awesome. So like how does it work? Like what's the, does it follow the formula that you described earlier pretty much down to the T and then gives
Exactly.
you ideas as I guess a result of some kind?
Yeah, yeah. So it helps you plug in every product or service that your business offers. As a marketing SaaS agency, that is your high-level SaaS, whatever that is, right? And for your end customers, for the businesses that you serve, it's whatever products and services that they sell. It helps you plug that in with just the name of the product, a one-liner description, and a one-liner description of the audience that you are targeting. It will flesh out everything that we just talked about today, right? Your positioning, your messaging, all of that stuff, your unique value props and everything. Once you have that, it's saved into the app. And so now whenever you need a sales funnel or marketing copy, you just take that product or service and you plug it right in and it generates everything for you. So it's just clicks
Mm,
versus typing or trying to then, like tell ChatGPT what your business is about, what your product is about. It's done all of that on the back end for you. So you just take whatever
got
you
it.
into the account and you plug it in. And something that we're also releasing, we're working on releasing this week is a framework for StoryBrand. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but how
Mhm.
to build your brand story using the StoryBrand framework, and how to use that to also plug into all of your sales messaging, your positioning, your marketing, and how your products fit into that larger brand story of yours so that everything
Yeah,
connects.
yeah, it sounds like I should be really excited if I'm like an analytical person and I need a strategy partner to kind of map out my marketing strategy. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, it will map out it's your product marketing team, right? It does all of the research for you. I mean, there's nothing will ever replace customer feedback, live customer feedback. So in no way am I saying AI is going to replace your entire marketing, sales, product marketing team. But it will replace that research component, right? For you. It'll tell you what's resonating, what's not resonating. It'll unearth these key findings about your target audience that you may never have thought of before, you know?
I, yeah, I love that. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just realized that we also touched upon florist businesses, and this is a great little example to demonstrate this. If you're working with local businesses, and let's just say it's a floral business, although this actually applies to so many local businesses, right? We are again tying our messaging into how we're going to help them make money, how we're going to help them save money, and how we're going to help them save time, right? But when we use the AI to unearth some of the deeper challenges and wants and needs and desires of this floral business, we unearthed the fact that a lot of these floral businesses are family-owned businesses. They've been in the family for a long time. And so although the younger generation is taking over, they understand social media, they understand modern marketing methods, they don't want to replace more traditional aspects of their business. And so for them, if you go in and say, hey, here's high level or whatever your white label version of that is, and look at all the cool things it can do for you, it's the future, and it's got all this AI built in, they're not going to care. Right? And so when you understand that piece, now you get to go back to the drawing board and figure out which Lego piece are you going to pull, what's actually going to make a difference for this florist business.
That's so interesting because so many local businesses are going to be second generation managed within the next like 5, 10 years, if you ask me. And like you said, the next generation 1000% has access to the modern marketing. They market themselves better than half the small businesses as a person. Like they're posting all the time about which, cake they had at this birthday party versus which roller coaster ride they went to. They're in sync of what modern marketing on social looks like as a person.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to kind of see that kind of now affect how a business is ran from an ownership standpoint. So, Rooney, help me close out this conversation. We talked about how to differentiate, how to use AI to differentiate yourself in the market. The first thing we talked about was what is product marketing and what is not. Second was conversational AI versus strategic building with Gen AI. The third thing we talked about was applying positioning to the messaging. And we also shared some ideas of promptless AI. What are some, help us kind of bring this whole conversation together?
Well, if you're watching this, the one thing that I'd like you to walk away and do right away is try this out for yourself, right? And I've curated, or I had my team put together this curated list of the 3 sales prompts that we have found most beneficial with our own business and the customers that we've served. Some of these are what helped us reposition our own product and generate $100,000 in revenue within 3 months. It's literally the same positioning framework that we talked about. And we have a curated list of that. So if you'd like to grab that, just plug it into ChatGPT. I know I've talked about Promptless AI, but really you need to understand where you stand with prompts, right? Do you love it? Do you hate it? How much of it do you want to be doing? And to just get you started with that journey and to help you think about AI as how it can plug into the other pieces like conversational AI. You can go to heylevi.ai/prompts and grab the PDF that we've put together for you and let us know the results you get with that.
Yeah, and obviously results may vary. You may not make 100 grand in the next day or so, but these are things that we're sharing from experiences. And Rooney, if you don't mind, do you mind dropping those resources in the comments once we've published it in
Yeah.
the YouTube channels and everywhere, so that way they have it there. So any final thoughts on differentiating using AI as a high leveler or a SaaSpreneur?
Yes, don't let the fear of tech hold you back. That's my
I
big
love that.
don't let the fear of tech. I know you were expecting more, but that's the biggest takeaway. Don't let the fear of tech hold you back from understanding your unique value and how you can use that to take your conversations with your ideal customers to a whole different level where it doesn't feel like it's a sales call where they have these objections. You're 2 people on the same wavelength, talking about the same thing and getting to the same end goal.
I love that. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for stopping by, giving us some insights to some of your experiences in the past, as well as your own AI system that you've built out. I'm excited for it. And then, will I see you at one of the masterminds or conferences this year? I know we saw you in the past ones.
I can't stay away. I'll be at the May one too.
Okay, awesome. Well, looking forward to seeing you again. Thanks for watching, everyone, for another Spotlight session episode here at High Level. In case if you're watching and don't have a High Level account just yet, click on one of the links below. There's a 30-day trial somewhere. Take advantage of it. And then Rooney will and her team potentially will drop the resources that she talked about in the comments wherever you're requesting it, which is basically sales prompts that you can get some ideas and some drafting going. So that way you have some cool assets and resources as you talk to your customers. But either way, thanks for watching, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye. Thanks, Paulson.